The frozen silent snow fell quietly across the ruined forest. The wind whispered between broken trees and the cold felt sharp like knives. No birds. No animals. Only silence. That kind of silence that makes you feel like something is watching you. Jake moved slowly through the snow. He was a human, a scout for a nearby base. His boots crunched with each step. He wore thick clothes, but even then the cold tried to crawl into his skin. He wasn't supposed to be out this far. But the scanners picked up strange heat signals earlier that day. Very weak. Almost gone. Jake knew what that meant. Something, alive and in trouble. As he walked deeper into the trees, he saw it. Smoke. Very thin, rising like a ghost above the snow. Jake crouched, checked his scanner again. No movement, no large bodies. Just that weak heat, flickering like a candle about to die. He moved carefully now. There ahead, a small fire. Almost out. Around it, ash, burnt fabric, and nearby, a strange sight. A small pile of branches, and under them a shape. Jake's hand moved to his gun. But then, the shape moved. A sound. Soft, weak. A whimper. Jake dropped to his knees and brushed off the snow-covered branches. A child. Not human. Gray skin. Large, dark eyes. Thin arms hugging a bundle of burnt cloth. The child was shaking badly, lips turning blue. His fingers were wrapped tightly around a piece of cloth that had clearly once been part of someone else's clothing. Jake pulled off his own thick coat and wrapped it around the child. The child didn't fight. He just looked up, barely, blinking, too tired to fear. Jake whispered, "Where's your mother?" The child didn't answer. But his eyes moved, slowly, to the trees behind them. Jake turned. Tracks. Not human. Bare feet. Leading away from the fire. Jake didn't wait. He picked up the child in his arms and followed the tracks. The snow got deeper, the trees thicker. And then he saw her. She was lying face down in the snow, half buried. Her skin was a strange shade, of pale silver, marked with frost and deep red burns. Her body was shaking, but only slightly. She had no clothes. None. Jake knelt beside her. "Hey," he said gently. "Can you hear me?" She didn't answer. Then, slowly, she moved her head. Her eyes opened, same color as the child's. She looked at Jake and growled, weak, soft, but still protective. Jake held up his hands. "Easy. I'm here to help. I found your child." He turned slightly so she could see the child now wrapped in his coat. Her eyes changed. From fear to relief. A tear rolled down her cheek. It froze before it hit the ground. Jake pulled a blanket from his pack and gently covered her. She didn't stop him this time. It took all his strength to carry both of them. The outpost wasn't far. An old human shelter from before the war. Half buried in snow, but still standing. He kicked the door open and laid them down inside. The power still worked. Barely. Heat hissed from old vents. Jake placed the mother near the heat first, then the child. He searched for emergency food and water. He warmed some broth and held it to the child's mouth. The child drank slowly, eyes still, wide but no longer empty. Then he helped the mother sip a little water. She winced in pain but drank. Hours passed. She didn't speak. Neither did the child, but they were alive. Jake sat beside them, tired, staring at the snowstorm outside. Who were they? Why were they alone? And who would burn all their clothes just to keep their child warm? Then he remembered the burned fabric by the fire. She had done it. She had burned her own clothes. For her child. Jake looked at the small alien child, now sleeping against his mother's chest. He understood. He didn't need words to know what kind of mother she was. The kind who would freeze, just to give her child one more hour of life. And that made her, in his eyes, human. Her body was Fire. Her eyes were fear. The shelter was quiet, but Jake could not sleep. The storm outside screamed like a wild animal. Snow hit the old metal walls again and again, but inside the room was still. Too still. Jake sat near the heater, watching the alien mother. She was awake now. She didn't move much. Her body was wrapped in a thick blanket, but her skin still shook. The burns on her arms were dark red. Her face was pale, her lips cracked, but her eyes, they were open and watching him. Not with trust, with fear, not for herself, for her child. The small alien boy lay beside her, holding her hand tightly. He was warmer now, breathing steady. Jake had given him soft food, warm water. He slept without shaking, but the mother didn't sleep. She watched Jake like a wild animal watches fire. Jake slowly moved a cup of warm water toward her. She growled. Low, broken. Jake stopped. It's okay, he said softly. You need water. He placed the cup on the floor and pushed it gently toward her, using a stick from the firewood pile. He kept his hands up, showing no threat. The alien woman stared at the cup, then at him. Slowly, her burned hand reached out and grabbed it. She drank. Only a little, but it was enough. Jake felt her eyes on him the whole time. Later, he checked the outpost doors and cameras. One outside camera blinked, frozen over. The other one showed only snow. He came back inside and found her sitting up now, weak but alert. She looked around the small shelter. Her eyes moved over the walls, the door, the food packs, the sleeping bag, and then to Jake's gun. He saw her stare and stepped in front of it. I'm not going to hurt you, he said. She tilted her head slightly. He pointed to the child. You burned your clothes for him, didn't you? No reply. He knelt beside the fire and reached into his pack. Slowly, he pulled out a thermal jacket and placed it near her. You'll need this, he said. It's warmer than the blanket. Still, no movement. He sighed. Look, I don't know your name. You don't know mine, but we're stuck here. You and your kid need help. I'm the only one around for miles, so for now, I guess I'm your friend. The fire crackled. Then she spoke. Just one word. Shy. Jake turned. What? She said it again weakly. Shy. She placed a hand on her chest. Jake understood. Your name? She nodded once. He smiled. Shy. I'm Jake. She didn't repeat it, didn't need to. He saw something change in her eyes. Not full trust, but less fear. That night, Jake lay near the door, wrapped in a blanket. He kept one eye on them. Not because he feared them, but because something else was out there. He had seen the tracks. Not human. Not hers. Not the child's. Something else had followed them before, and might still be watching. Suddenly, he heard a soft scratching sound, then a thud. He jumped up and checked the outside monitor. Nothing. He turned to see Shy standing, her body shaking but her stance strong. She pointed to the door. Jake picked up his gun and moved slowly to the exit. The moment he opened the door, wind blasted his face. Nothing. Snow and trees. But the sound was real. He stepped out, eyes scanning. Then, he saw it, a figure, tall, thin, watching from the trees. Jake raised his gun. Hey! The figure vanished into the darkness. He rushed back inside and sealed the door. Shy was already holding her child tightly. Jake locked the metal bolts and looked at her. You saw it too, he said. Shy nodded. This time her eyes weren't filled with fear. They were filled with fire. The same fire she used to save her son. Jake sat down beside the heater and whispered, Whatever that thing is, it better pray you never get your strength back. Shelter or trap? Jake didn't sleep much that night. The wind howled, the fire dimmed, and in the dark corners of the shelter, shadows seemed to move. Shy sat with her back to the wall, her arms wrapped around her child. She didn't speak. She didn't blink much either. Her ears twitched at every sound. Jake checked the power again. The lights flickered. The heater rattled. The outpost was very old, built before the alien wars. Now it was falling apart just like everything else on this frozen planet. He tried to stay calm, but something bothered him. This place was supposed to be empty. So why were there fresh claw marks near the door? The next morning, Jake stepped outside with a heat scanner. The storm had passed. The snow was thick, soft, untouched. He moved carefully, scanning the edge of the trees. Then he found it. A pile of bones. Not human. Not animal. Not natural. Bones cracked in half. Marrow sucked out. No teeth marks. Just holes. Perfect. Round. Holes. Jake's breath caught in his throat. He backed away slowly and returned to the shelter. Inside, Ashai looked at him. She didn't need to ask. She saw it on his face. Danger was close. Very close. Jake spent the next hour checking the outpost's defenses. The autoguns were dead. The security cameras were old and blurry. He started building traps. Simple ones. Sharp. Sticks. Noise alarms, fire pits. Ashai watched him work. Then, slowly, painfully, she stood up. She limped to the fire, picked up a metal rod, and started sharpening it with a rock. Jake raised an eyebrow. "You planning to help?" She looked at him, her face still tired but her eyes strong. "Yes," she said, only one word, but it meant everything. Later, Jake found a small storage room behind a fake panel. Inside, old files, sealed food, and a strange box. When he opened it, he found something strange. A crystal. It was glowing. He didn't touch it, just stared. It looked alien, but not like Ashai's kind. He called her in. Ashai saw the crystal and froze. Her hand shot out and slammed the box shut. She looked terrified. "What is it?" Jake asked. Ashai didn't answer. She just said, "Bad." Then she pointed at the walls. Jake understood. This place wasn't a shelter, it was a trap. Not for him, not for her, but for something else. That night the snow fell again. The child finally spoke. Not many words. Just sounds. But he pointed at the door and said something over and over. "Da-ra. Da-ra." Jake looked at Ashai. She looked back, shaking her head. "No speak," she said softly. Too small. But Jake could see it. The fear in her eyes. He wrote the sound down. Thara. Whatever it meant, it scared her. Outside. A sound. Not wind. Footsteps. Slow. Wet. Heavy. Jake picked up his gun. Ashai grabbed her spear. The child crawled under the blanket. The doorknob moved. Jake raised the gun. "Stay behind me." Ashai moved beside him. Then, silence. The handle stopped. No one entered. Jake waited a full minute, then opened the door. No, one there. Only one thing. A small frozen handprint in the snow. But it was no human hand. 5 fingers. Long, thin, too long. Jake looked into the trees. Nothing. He stepped back and shut the door tight. Ashai said one word again. "Trap." Jake nodded. Yes. This shelter wasn't safety. It was a test, and something was watching, waiting. The creature that hunted warmth. The fire had burned low. Jake didn't move. Neither did Ashai. They both stared at the door. The frozen handprint had faded, but the fear stayed. Outside, nothing made a sound. No wind, no footsteps. Just silence. Like something was holding its breath. Then came the noise again. Knock knock. Not loud, just soft taps, like a child trying to come inside. But Jake knew, better. Children didn't leave handprints like that, he whispered. "Don't answer, no matter what." Ashai clutched the child tighter. Her breath was slow but tense. Her eyes stayed on the door. Then the knock came again. But this time, it was followed by a voice, a small, innocent voice. "Papa, open. Please. I'm cold." Jake froze. That was his name. Papa. The child had started calling him that just the day before. But the real child was sitting behind him. Jake turned. The alien child was asleep, wrapped in the blanket, holding his mother's hand. The voice outside was a lie. Ashai whispered something in her own language. Jake didn't understand the words, but he understood the fear in her tone. He moved to the monitor. The outside camera had frost all over it, but still worked a little. What he saw made his skin go cold. Something was standing in the snow. Tall, thin, with a face. Almost human, but its eyes were wrong. Too large, too black. It was mimicking the child's voice. Jake grabbed his rifle. Ashai rose too, gripping the sharpened rod she had made. "Not child," she said. "I know," Jake replied. They didn't sleep that night. Jake took first watch. He saw movement outside, just at the edge of the trees. The creature circled the shelter but never came close. It was waiting. Jake remembered the bones he found before. Clean. Hollowed out. The creature didn't eat flesh. It wanted heat. It fed on warmth. By morning, the heat inside the shelter began to fail. The generator was old, overworked, freezing. Jake banged the machine, kicked it, swore at it. But it only gave weak sparks. Ashai placed her hand on it. She closed her eyes and whispered, then shook her head. "Die soon," she said. Jake looked at the child. Already he was shivering again. There was no time. Jake packed supplies into a bag. "Rations, fire sticks, weapons. We have to leave," he said. Ashai looked weak, but she nodded. No, stay. But outside was worse. The moment they opened the door, the cold hit them hard. And then, they saw it. Not hiding anymore. Standing in the open, near the trees, watching. Its skin was pale and smooth. Its body long and thin. Its head tilted to the side like it was curious. It didn't run. It didn't charge. It just stared. Jake held up the rifle. But Ashai grabbed his arm. "No, shoot." "No, help." Jake understood. This thing wasn't afraid of bullets. It wanted them to fire. It wanted heat. They ran. Through the snow, past the trees, toward the caves Jake remembered from his map. The creature didn't follow fast. It moved slow. Like it knew. It didn't have to rush. The cold would do the work. After 1 hour, Ashai fell. Jake picked her up, gasping. She was burning up with fever, but her skin was cold. The child cried. Jake held them both and kept going. Then, the caves. He dragged them inside, started a fire, and blocked the entrance with stone. Ashai coughed and whispered, "It smells heat." Jake nodded. "I know." Night fell, and the creature came. Jake heard it outside, dragging its fingers along the stone. Then, a voice. This time it sounded like Ashai. "Jake, come out. Help." He didn't move. He just threw a torch toward the mouth of the cave. The fire lit up the entrance, and for 1 second, he saw it clearly. The creature was melting. Its face twisted, it hissed, and it backed away. Ashai opened her eyes. She saw the torch in Jake's hand and the burning fear in his eyes. She smiled weakly. "You fight." Jake nodded. "I fight." And tonight, they lived. Fire and fear fire danced at the mouth of the cave. It hissed, cracked, and spat sparks into the freezing wind. Jake sat close, holding a burning stick like a sword. His eyes were red from no sleep. His hands shook, not from the cold, but from what he had seen. Ashai lay behind him, her breathing shallow. Her child slept beside her, curled under a silver cloth that shimmered faintly in the firelight. Alien fabric that kept in every bit of heat. Outside, the storm had passed, but the real danger waited in the silence. Jake kept his ears open. Every gust of wind made his heart jump. Then he heard it, scraping, not from the cave's front, from behind. His head snapped around. Rock shouldn't move on its own, but one stone at the back wall had shifted. He stood slowly, torch in hand. The sound came again, a low slide, a long scratch, like claws against bone. Jake stepped backward, toward Ashai. She sat up, weak, her eyes locked on the stone wall. Her voice trembled. It learns. Jake's stomach dropped. Learns? The creature had always come from the front before. Now it was trying a new way. Without thinking, Jake grabbed the child and Ashai, pulling them closer to the fire. Then the wall cracked. A thin black arm slid through a gap in the stone. Jake swung the torch. The flame touched the arm, and the creature screamed. The sound wasn't natural, not like pain, more like anger. Like heat was poison. The arm vanished. Jake shoved stones into the gap, sealing it tight. But he knew now, the thing wouldn't stop. It would keep coming, and soon, the fire would die. Ashai spoke slowly. It was used, on my people. War, long ago. Jake looked at her. That thing? She nodded. Weapon. Made to chase. Made to feed. It finds life, and eats warmth. Jake blinked. Someone built that thing? Not someone, Ashai whispered. Something worse. She looked at the fire. We must end it. Jake didn't want to leave the cave, but they had no fuel left. No more firewood. No more rations. One choice remained. Bait the monster. Kill it or freeze. He gave Ashai his last warming pack and wrapped the child in his own coat. Then he lit a second torch and walked into the snow. The cold bit him hard. He left deep prints heavy and clear. He wanted the creature to follow. He reached the field where trees thinned out. There he dug. Not a trap. A fire pit. He laid dry wood, fuel packs, broken tech, anything flammable. Then he stood above it, holding the torch, and waited. It didn't take long. The wind shifted. The air turned still. Then, footsteps. But not from behind. From all sides, the creature no longer pretended to be someone else. Now, it walked tall. It stood at the edge of the tree line, its face shimmered, changing shapes. Ashai, the child, even Jake himself, trying to confuse him. Jake didn't move. The fire pit was ready. The bait, his body, was ready. The creature stepped closer. Jake whispered, "Come on. Just a little more. Closer. Closer." Then, Jake dropped the torch. The fire pit roared to life, exploding upward in a wave of heat. The creature screamed again, louder than before. Its skin peeled back, its body cracked and twisted. Jake grabbed a pie stick burning at one end and charged. He plunged it into the creature's chest. Light shot out from the wound. The monster jerked once. Then, silence. The body collapsed, steam rising from it like a dying engine. Jake fell to his knees, breathless. Snow fell again. But now, it felt clean, empty, safe. Back at the cave, Ashai waited at the entrance. Her child stood beside her, holding her hand. When Jake returned, covered in ash and burn marks, she didn't speak. She just reached out and touched his shoulder. The child said, "Papa," and hugged his leg. Jake smiled, tired. But he knew. For now, they were safe. Her name was Ashai. The cave was warm now, not because of the fire. The fire had burned out hours ago, but the danger was gone. The creature that hunted warmth was dead, and in its place, silence. Real silence. Safe silence. Jake sat, At the mouth of the cave, watching the sunrise, orange light touched the snowy trees. The sky looked clean, soft, like the planet itself was breathing again. Behind him, Ashai slept, her child curled into her chest. They were wrapped together in silver cloth and human jackets. Jake finally had a moment to rest. But rest brought memories. He thought about the day he landed here. Just another patrol. Just another broken signal. He never expected to find an alien. Mother, burned and shaking, wrapped around her child in the snow. He never expected to fight something he couldn't understand. And he never expected to feel this strange warmth in his chest. A bond he hadn't felt in years. Not since Earth. Not since the war. Later, when Ashai woke, Jake handed her food. Human rations, tasteless, but warm. She took them without a word. They ate in silence for a few minutes. Then Ashai looked at him and spoke. "Name," she said slowly, pointing at herself. Shai." Jake nodded. "Ashai." She smiled gently, then pointed at the child. "Loen." Jake repeated it. "Loen." The boy giggled. Jake pointed at himself. "Jake." Ashai tried to say it. "Jack." Close enough. They all smiled. For the first time, it felt like family. Later that day, they began walking. The cave was safe, but it wouldn't last. They needed real shelter. Jake remembered an old transport site 12 miles east. If it still worked, they could call for help. They walked slow. Ashai's legs still hurt, but she didn't complain. Loen rode in Jake's arms, fast asleep. As they walked, Jake spoke more, telling simple stories, teaching small words. Ashai listened, nodding. Loen mimicked sounds. Bird, tree, sky. Then Ashai stopped. She knelt down and pressed her hand to the snow. She spoke in her own language, soft, musical words. Jake watched in silence. She finished, then stood. "What was that?" he asked. Gently, Ashai looked toward the sky. "Goodbye," she said. Jake understood. She was saying goodbye to someone. Too many, maybe. To her people, to the dead, to the home she lost. They reached the old transport site by sunset. The tower was bent, half covered in snow, but the beacon still blinked, a weak blue light. Jake climbed up and powered the emergency signal. It worked. Barely. A message. Sent a call for rescue. While they waited, Ashai sat on the hill watching the stars appear. Jake joined her. They didn't speak at first. Then she said, "Your people will not like me." Jake sighed. "Some won't, but I'll talk to them." Ashai looked down. "I am weapon, not meant to live." Jake frowned. "You're a mother." She blinked. "You burned your own skin to keep your child warm," he said softly. "That's not a weapon. That's love." Tears filled her eyes. Jake didn't touch her. He just sat close. That night, the sky lit up. A ship. Human. Rescue. Jake stood and waved. Ashai held Loen tightly, unsure. When the ship landed, soldiers stepped out. Guns ready. Jake stepped in front of Ashai and shouted, "She's with me!" The soldiers paused. The captain stared at Ashai, then at the child, then at Jake, and slowly nodded. On the ship, Jake gave Ashai a blanket. Loen fell asleep in his arms. Ashai leaned back and whispered, "Safe now." Jake looked at her and nodded. "Yes, Ashai, you're safe now." A new home, a human heart. The stars outside the ship window looked peaceful. Ashai had never seen them like this. Calm, bright, not running, not hiding. They reminded her of stories from her world, now lost. Her arms wrapped tightly around Loen, who slept with one hand clutching Jake's jacket. Jake sat nearby, staring at the stars too, but his mind was racing. They were headed toward Haven 9, a human colony on the edge of neutral space. It was safer than Earth. Less rules, fewer questions. But still, he didn't know what would happen when they landed. Would the others accept them? An alien mother? Her child? Survivors of something humans had once helped create? Jake clenched, his jaw. He wasn't going to let anyone touch them. As the ship neared the colony, Ashai placed her hand gently on his. Jake turned, surprised. "You sure?" she asked. It was one of the few human words she had learned completely. He nodded. "Yes, I'm sure." She looked outside. "Too many dead. No more run." Jake squeezed her hand. "You don't have to run anymore." Lowen stirred and opened his eyes. "Papa, home." Jake smiled softly. "Yeah, kid. We're going home." They landed just after dawn. The gates of Haven 9 opened slowly. Soldiers stood at the edge of the landing pad, watching. Civilians peeked from behind buildings. Jake walked down the ramp first. Ashai followed, holding Lowen's hand. Silence. Every eye locked on them. Some gasped. Others whispered. Jake raised a hand. "These two are survivors. They were hunted, nearly frozen. But they're alive because they fought, and because they never gave up on each other." A woman in a lab coat stepped forward. "You brought aliens. Here?" "They're not just aliens," Jake said. "They're family." The woman frowned. "And the creature?" "Gone," Jake said. "Burned. It won't return." A long pause. Then someone clapped one of the engineers. Then a soldier. Then more. No cheers. Just understanding. Ashai looked around, confused. Jake leaned close. "It means they accept you." She blinked. "Home?" He smiled. "Maybe." Days passed. Ashai was given a small room in the medical dome. She slept beside Lowen every night, one arm always wrapped around him. Jake helped fix the heating grid. When he returned each night, Lowen ran to him with open arms. "Papa!" Jake lifted him up every time, no matter how tired he was. Ashai began. Learning more words, she asked questions. About Earth, about war, about peace. Jake taught her slowly. She told him stories too, in her language, using hands and pictures when words failed. Stories of her world. Of a mountain where fire lived in the rocks. Of a sky that never turned dark. Of a song that mothers sang to protect their children from death. Jake listened. Every time. One evening, Jake found Ashai outside, sitting beneath the stars again. She pointed up. "My people," she said, "are gone, but my heart, not empty." Jake sat beside her. "Why not?" She looked at him, then at Lowen, who was drawing shapes in the dirt with a stick. She smiled. "Because human heart shared." Jake didn't know what to say, so he just said, "Mine too." The next day, the colony elders offered Jake a new position, Guardian, Commander, a title for someone who had proven their strength, leadership, and heart. Jake said he would only accept if Ashai and Lowen were allowed to stay. They agreed. Weeks later, a child played in the snow outside the colony gates. Lowen. His laughter rang out through the crisp air. Nearby, Ashai stood with Jake, both watching. She wore a new coat, a human one, stitched with the colony's symbol and her name. Ashai, survivor, mother, protector. Jake placed an arm around her shoulders. "No more running," he whispered. Ashai nodded. "Home," she said. And for the first time, it was true.